Bavand dynasty. The Bavand dynasty Persian, Bwnd and also spelled Bavand, or simply the Bavandids, was an Iranian dynasty that ruled in parts of Tabaristan, present-day Mazandaran province, in what is now northern Iran from 651 until 1349, alternating between outright independence and submission as vassals to more powerful origins. The dynasty itself traced its descent back to Bav, who was alleged to be a grandson of the Sasanian prince Kawis, brother of Khosrow I, and son of the Shah, Kavad I ruled 488–531, who supposedly fled to Tabaristan from the Muslim conquest of Persia. He rallied the locals around him, repelled the first Arab attacks, and reigned for 15 years until he was murdered by a certain Valash, who ruled the country for 8 years. Bav's son, Sohrab or Surkab I, established himself at Param on the eastern mountain ranges of Tabaristan, which thereafter became the family's domain. The scholar J. Marquardt, however, proposed an alternative identification of the legendary Bav with a late 6th century Zoroastrian priest Majin from Ray. Parvane Pourshariati, in her re-examination of late Sasanian history, asserts that this Bav is a conflation of several members of the powerful house of Isbabad Hinbawi, his grandson Bastam, and his great-nephew Farrukhzad. She also reconstructs the events of the middle 7th century as a civil war between two rival clans, the Isbabatin and Valash's house of Karen, before the David Farrakhan the Great conquered Tabaristan and subdued the various local leaders to vassalage. The David house then ruled Tabaristan until the Abbasids subdued the region in 760. History. It is at the time after the Abbasid conquest that the Bavandids entered documented history, with Sharwin I in later tradition accounted the great-grandson of Surkab I. The dynasty is commonly divided into 3 major branches: the Kayusiya, named after Kayus ibn Qubad, the Arabicized name of the family's legendary ancestor Kawis, son of Kavad, which ruled from 665 until 1006, when the family's rule was ended by Kawis ibn Washmagir. Several members of the family continued to rule in various localities thereafter, giving rise to the second line, the Isbabatiya, in 1073. Their capital was Sari, and their rule extended over Jalan, Ray and Quemes as well as Tabaristan, although they were mostly vassals of the Seljuks and later of the Khwarezms. The line was ended in 1210 with the murder of Rustam V, and the Khwarezm Mohammed Roman II took over direct control of the region. The third line, or Kinaquaria, was established in 1237 following the Mongol invasions and the widespread chaos that prevailed and lasted as a vassal of the Mongols until the final end of the dynasty in 1349. Kayusiya line. Following the demise of the Dabawids, 2 major local dynasties were left in Tabaristan, the Bavandids in the eastern mountains and the Karanids, who also appropriated the heritage of the David rulers in the central and western mountain ranges. Both claimed Sasanian origin and titulature, with the Bavandids styling themselves as kings of Tabaristan and, like the Karanids, claiming the title of Isbabad. Sharwin I, along with the Karanid ruler Vanda at Hormozd, led the native resistance to Muslim rule and the efforts at Islamization and settlement begun by the Abbasid governor, Khalid ibn Barmak 768–772. Following his departure, the native princes destroyed the towns he had built in the highlands, and although in 781 they affirmed loyalty to the caliphate, in 782 they launched a general anti-Muslim revolt that was not suppressed until 785, when Said al-Harashi led 40,000 troops into the region. Relations with the caliphal governors in the lowlands improved thereafter, but the Bavandid and Karanid princes remained united in their opposition to Muslim penetration of the highlands, to the extent that they prohibited even the burial of Muslims there. Isolated acts of defiance like the murder of a tax collector occurred, but when the 2 princes were summoned before Harun al-Rashid in 805, they promised loyalty and the payment of a tax, and were forced to leave their sons behind as hostages for 4 years. After his death in 817, Sharvan was succeeded by his grandson Shahryar I, who managed to evict the Carinid Mazyar from his own realm. Mazyar fled to the court of the Caliph al-Ma'mun, became a Muslim, and in 822/23 returned with the support of the Abbasid governor to exact revenge. Shahryar's son and successor, Shapur, was defeated and killed, and Mazyar united the highlands under his own rule. His growing power brought him into conflict with the Muslim settlers at Amul, but he was able to take the city and receive acknowledgement of his rule over all of Tabaristan from the caliphal court. Eventually, however, he quarreled with Abdallah ibn Tahir, and in 839 he was captured by the Tahirids, who now took over control of Tabaristan. The Bavandids exploited the opportunity to regain their ancestral lands. Shapur's brother, Karan I, assisted the Tahirids against Mazyar, and was rewarded with his brother's lands and royal title. In 842 he converted to Islam. This period saw the rapid Islamization of the native population of Tabaristan. Although the majority accepted Sunni Islam, Shi'ism also spread, especially in Amul and the neighboring areas of Astarabad and Gurgan. Thus, in 864, a Zaydi Alid, Hassan ibn Zayd, was invited to Tabaristan, and with support from the Daylamites took over control of the province. The Bavandids remained steadfastly opposed to the Alid dynasty throughout its existence, and Karan's grandson Rustam I was to pay with his life for this. In 895, the Sunni Samanids drove out the Alids in 900, but in 914 a relative of Hassan ibn Zayd, Hassan al-Atrush, managed to drive out the Samanids, restore Alid control over the province, and force even the Bavandids and Karanids to accept his rule. The history of the Bavandids is detailed in the works of Ibn Isfandiyar and Marashi, which belong to the genre of local histories that gained popularity in Iran after 1080. We know that they were related to the Ziyarid dynasty through the marriage of Mardanshah, the father of Ziyar, to the daughter of one of the Bavandi kings. The prominence of the Bavandi kings apparently continued throughout the Seljuk and Mongol period. One of their greatest kings, Shah Ghazi Rustam, is reported to have seriously defeated the Ismailis, who were gaining prominence in Tabaristan, and to have made significant progress in consolidating power in the Caspian provinces. After the Mongol conquest, the Bavandis continued to rule as local strongmen of Tabaristan and sometimes Daylam. Their power was finally brought down around 1350 when Kia Afrasiab of the Afrasiab dynasty, themselves an offshoot of the Bavandis, managed to kill Hassan Roman II of Tabaristan, the last of the mainline Bavandi kings. Culture. The Bavandids stressed their lineage with the Sasanian Empire. As late as the early 13th century, their coronation customs were assumed to go back to the remote past, as depicted thorough by the 13th century Iranian historian Ibn Isfandiyar. The coronation festivities lasted 7 days, according to the old Iranian fashion, and included the usual feastings, rejoicings, giving of presents, while the notables and Espaveds and Bavandids assembled from all the countryside. When these congratulations were finished, on the 8th day the Ispahad ascended the throne girded on the royal girdle, and confirmed the governors in their appointments, and caused the Espaveds and Amirs to cast aside their mourning, and clad them in robes of honor. Bavandid rulers. Kayusia. Farik said 651-665. Elash usurper 665-673. Sirkabai 673-717. Mihr Mardan 717-755. Sirkab Roman II 755-772. Sharwin I 772-817. Shahryar I 817-825. Shapur 825. Rule by the Carinid Mazyar 825-839. Karan I 839, 867. Rustem I 867 895. Sharwin Roman II 896 930. Shahryar Roman II 930 964. Rustem Roman II 964 979. Almars Ubin 979 986. Sharwin Roman III 986. Shahryar Roman III 986 987. Almars Ubin 987 998. Shahryar Roman III 998. Almars Ubin 998 1006. Abu Jafar Mohammed -1027. Karan Roman II 1057 1074. Isbabatiya. Shahryar Roman IV 1074 1114. Karan Roman III 1114 1117. Rustem Roman III 1117 1118. Ali I 1118 1142. Shahgazi Rustem 1142 1165. Hassan I 1165 1173. Ardashir I 1173 1205. Rustem V 1205 1210. Kinqueria. Ardashir Roman II 1238 1249. Mohammed 1249 1271. Ali Roman II 1271. Yazdegerd 1271 1300. Shahryar V 1300 1310. Shah K Khusraw 1310 1328. Sharaf al-Muluk 1328 1334. Hassan Roman II 1334 1349.